Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Chess Show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and today we have our regular Professor Ken Regan with a lot of to say for recent games being played. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Yes,
Great
thank you
to have
very much for having me on again. We have wonderful sunshine and we have wonderful good news that it appears that all the visa difficulties with the candidates tournaments have been resolved as of this morning.
Great. That's great news because they were talk to move it to Spain or somewhere else. But you know what? It's great. I think Toronto deserved to have this high caliber
Yep.
tournament, and I'm looking forward to it
And
so
I'm
much.
looking forward to coming up and seeing it. And I'm not the only member of my department who will do so. One of my
Oh, oh,
colleagues already has his tickets. So,
okay,
yeah.
excellent. So we'll have a great time. Which hotel actually it's being played? Have
Well,
you
it's
figured
being
out?
played at the Great Hall in Toronto, which I don't think I've ever seen, but
Great
in the
Hall.
downtown area.
Yeah,
Um,
of course, great. Where else
closer,
Great Hall could be?
yeah, closer to the lake. Yeah. So, uh, but
And
so
it's a
no,
name. It's a name. Great Hall. Really?
that's what it's called. Yes. So,
Great Hall. Okay,
yeah.
I'll do search. I never heard about Great Hall.
Mhm.
Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, Ken, what interesting game really fascinates you?
Yeah. So I have been following the Prague Masters and Challengers and Futures. Okay, three
Hmm.
very interesting round robin tournaments, as well as the Open they have there, annual festival in Prague. Um, the Futures is especially interesting because the players are all very young, teen or preteen. But we'll go to the Masters where Norbek Abdusattorov had maybe the first really signature triumph of his career, winning the tournament with a round to spare by 1.5 points. And
Incredible.
I'm going to present a kind of chain of one fish eats another fish until the big fish eats and wins sort of situations. I have a selection of
Excellent.
games which show really what they show is that there was fantastic fighting chess throughout the tournament. And that was said to me in person, actually. Okay, so let me share my screen, and I'm going to do this with the arena um, uh, widget. So I have Abdusadorov, okay, so playing Pragdananda, one of the young talents that we're going to see at the candidates. So this is a case where Black pulls through, and this with classical Rui Lopez. My goodness, this opening is not extinct. Well, Black is about to veer off the classical Rui uh, lines, and now we're already in reasonably original territory. Black is going to fianchetto the bishop. Black is making sure that now if White captures on c6, it will not double the pawns. Um, Now, usually White plays to be very aggressive in the center against this. Well, I take my mind. I misspoke. Wow, Black is not going to fianchetto the bishop. Black is not going to make sure that White cannot double the pawns by taking on c6. Now we really are playing new stuff. And what did I just say? I said that White's usual play is to be very aggressive in the center. Well, I lied again. It is Black who is going to be aggressive in the center. My goodness, we're leaving weak squares all over the place, though. E5, well, I guess the knight on G6 guards E5, but wow, okay. So this is just an example of the way people are reinventing chess nowadays. Okay. All right, let's see what surprises can happen in the rest of the game. All right. So next part of the game, I mean, Black obviously is going to retreat the queen to d6, which is an excellent square for the queen because White can't attack it with knight c3, b5 as it usually happened, and the queen supports the center. Black wasn't going to bring out the bishop to c5 anyway because the way White's pawns are. So that would be a nice circumspect defensive move to play rather like the center counter. And there we see Black has played his queen to d6. Oh no, wait. That's not D6, that's D3. I've got the board
Absolutely.
turned around wrong. Okay, well, so we're going to do that, and we're going to put the make the queen vulnerable. Well, that's a thorn in White's side. Okay, so white plays bishop c2 to drive out the queen, and now black plays queen d6. Okay, I didn't completely lie that time. It's just that black wanted to get white's bishop to c2 instead of being on b3. All right, so now the game actually travels fairly sane courses from here on. Okay, so now the okay, so black now just doubles, and one good thing for black is that black has enough guard over the center squares e5 and d5, okay, to be able to play calmly like this. And technically, black is actually ahead in development, so this isn't as dangerous as it might look for black's king to be opposite the rook on a file that can be opened. Okay, so black now resolves a little bit of tension there and is able to do so because black can castle to safety, and there we are. I'm not putting on the computer, but as far as I could see, black actually has a quite solid, quite reasonable position, and white suffers from the inability to develop the knight in a natural way, except that it can come to e4. Okay, so maybe white would rather play it to c3 and reserve going to e4 as an option, but as it is, white now plays the knight to e2 and has e4 and f3 as options. Okay, but that gives black a little time to strike. And again, black is overprotecting very well. So knight e4 in this position does not win the c pawn, because when black's queen goes back, the queen and bishop will be guarding it. Okay, so now black plays queen c7. Now knight e4 is not with tempo. Okay, so now normal middle game position, and white did catch up in development. Black used the tempo to get a little more space in the center with c5. Okay, so now white attacks. Whether this is an attack really depends on whether white can push the f pawn. Otherwise, black's knight on g6 is a really solid defender, and white isn't close to getting the knight to g5 yet. The square is covered anyway. Okay, so white plays g3, possibly prefatory toward expanding the center. It's also probably most important, limiting black's knight on g6. And now,
Ken, white is lacking space. Black controls much more space than white.
correct.
I think that this kind of spells future danger.
Yeah, maybe you are tempting me to put on this very ancient engine, Toga, of Thomas Gatch from a long time ago. And that just, okay, so this still evaluates the position as slightly better for white. Well, okay, now maybe you'll tempt me to get a more modern engine and see what it says. So let's let's see what version of Stockfish I have on here. This is my alternate one here. Okay, so let's get Commodore 14.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I don't have the link. Yep. Let's leave it alone. Actually.
Okay.
Okay. I had to reorganize my PC, so I don't necessarily have everything to hand. Okay, so white expands like this. This was not the move that Toga wanted to play. Toga wanted to play a4. So now what does Toga think? Still slight edge for white. All right, so white expands. As I said, black again is watching over the f5 square, which is the one thing that white could conceivably do damage. Now maybe in these last two moves, white has equalized the impression of black having a lot more space. And now white plays a4. Okay.
Okay.
So now black contests the center. White captures. White's bishop goes back to g2. Okay. Now black is content to get rid of white's try to get rid of white's squared bishop. And this now having black's bishop on h3 and white's bishop on h1, that's a definite gain for black.
Yes.
So b4, c4, white decides to try to block the queen side and expose c5 as a potential weakness.
And control on d5 square,
Yeah.
possibly.
Right. So now we definitely reach the calculating part of the game. Okay, white cannot capture on c5 because white's knight on d2, which has not found a good square. Whatever white was doing white didn't take time to activate the knight by playing it to f3 or e4. And now it's going to take white a longer time to do that.
So
So
why
white,
not play now knight e4? Was that
yeah, that's actually maybe a reasonable move. White decided to get very active instead. Okay, so let's actually see what happens if that's played.
okay?
Uh, so that actually, the engine likes it.
Mhm.
Engine thinks that black has to stuff it, to block at d4, and I guess it becomes very tactical from here on out. Um, so, okay, but that's not what white did. Instead, white played a very cut and thrust move. Rook a8, okay, so disturbing black's position, although maybe arguably improving it. The one thing is that now black's c pawn is indefensible. Okay, so now white plays knight e4. So white must have judged that it would be better to do this exchange and then just have overwhelming force against the c4 square. But now here comes black's counterplay against the c4 pawn. And okay, we equalize that. And it looks like white would want to play knight takes f6 check and double black's pawns and gain the two bishops. And black's knight really does not have any prospects. And let's see what the engine thinks of that move. The engine likes knight takes f6 check quite a
Mhm.
lot. So it says that white should be strongly ahead. So what happens instead must be credited as temptation. Now, this does have the clock times. I don't know if those how accurately recorded those clock times are. They must be. It's a digital board. So white had 10 minutes here, on the so, and the clock only took a minute on the next move. So anyway, white goes fishing um, with knight d6 instead, hoping perhaps to dislodge black's defense of the pawn on b4, which will give white an extra pawn on the queen side. But you really have to calculate this sort of thing accurately. And I have to say, following it up with bishop f3 just does not impress. It's also possible that white saw ghosts on the back rank with black's bishop on h3 taking the flight away from the king. So now let's see what the engine thinks of the game, and the engine thinks white still has a tiny edge, but really white has missed a chance. Okay, bishop h5, still pressuring. Now we repeat, but white decides not to repeat moves.
Hmm.
So Avdasattarov, is adamant, still going for the win, but my goodness. So this is definitely a mistake. This is, I remember this being commented on. This was just a terrible blunder. Okay, so black waiting for the chance, rook e2, terrible blunder, and 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 can't really say in time pressure. Well, white played it with 3 minutes 49 seconds left, and now white. So if white captures on d6, black plays queen d1 check, and queen takes d6, and the terrible back rank has come through. Okay, so now this, on the other hand, is a definite Starr move. Okay, so bishop d4, dragging white's queen away from f3, and now the latent weakness on the light squares has come back to haunt white. And now white defends, but black has actually achieved a better version of the with the white bishop on f3 also off. You can judge that this is a better version of the two pieces for a rook exchange. Let's see. So the engine now sees very correctly that that black has a very, very strong, very definite advantage. That need not be the case. There are cases where you're down two pieces for a rook and you can defend because your position is fairly solid. So, for instance, if you move white's pawns back to g2 and f3 and stick black's bishop on e6, then white might be able to defend. The pawn on b2 is not easy to attack. It's not on the color of black's bishop. Black would have to get queen and knight on it, but queen and knight would expose black's king to potential counterplay because black isn't guarding the back rank with the rook. But with these holes in the position, it now proves just too much for white. So even though the players have received 30 extra minutes at turn 40, this is sort of position where it can fall apart for white, even in slow chess,
Because of the
more quickly.
weaknesses of the white squares.
Right.
Horrible, horrible.
Right. It's much harder for white to thread the tightrope in this kind of position. And very interestingly, Pragnananda is already able to judge that we can actually give up our trump of attacking white's king and get rid of the queens. And now the fact that the pawn is on b3 is going to be able to for black to tie white down and then infiltrate. Okay.
Right.
So now black just needs to resolve things a bit, but here we go. Now with the bishop on c2 guarding the pawn, white cannot defend the b pawn with the rook ever again. And so now black comes in, and black is going to play knight d1, knight takes b2, and there's absolutely nothing white can do about it. So unfortunate blunder, definitely a fighting game, I have to say. This is a new brand of chess. You can play the first 8 moves that creatively. I mean, maybe it's booked, maybe it's been done before. I didn't open this with ChessBase. I probably should, actually. So okie doke. All right. We don't have James or other questions. Let me go on to the next. So that was a win against Abdusadarov. I'm going to show a win by Abdusadarov first, but first let me show a win by the person whom Abdusadarov vanquished in the key 8th round. So this is Parham Magsudlu. Okay, so playing against Vidit, another one of the stars whom we will see. And so this time it'll be good for white. And okay, so now, I mean, great T opening with the double fianchetto. Yep, very nice positional play. Black establishes a force in the center, questions the classic hypermodern question of whether white can expose the d4 pawn in particular as a weakness and expand. White can also expand on the queen side where there are 3 pawns against 2, and here they come. White has e4 very well covered, although black will try, and now the fireworks start. Okay, so black can't take on d3, has to move the bishop, and now white gains space on the queen side and guards d3. Okay, queen c2, queen d7. Okay, building up. But when I say fireworks, you have to allow for the possibility that black may actually play e4 in one of these positions. And in fact, briefly, the computer thought that that was black's best move. So this old chess program, which I have because it's more classically evaluating, it's not relying on huge look ahead for its determinations, tells you that black is actually fine here. Okay, and that the move black played, bishop g4, is certainly a move to consider. But while we're at it, what would it think of e4 in this position? Okay, so it does say that white playing knight takes d4, and then being able to pin on the d file with e4 is an advantage for white. Okay, so it tactically has to be looked at. Anyway, bishop g4, very natural move. Okay, we just play. This is called just playing chess. Okay, so white has achieved maximum influence over the e file, but black has moves too, and black is able again to get rid of the light squared bishop. So now it's a question of whether black can take advantage of the missing light squared bishop, and the answer is really not. Here we have a case where white's knight on d2 is really a pillar of strength. It's preventing e4. It's guarding there are 2 knights are guarding f3, and the pawns at f2 and g3 prevent black's knight from coming in. Although you do have to worry about knight f4 check, which is a possible move, because then g takes f4, white's knight on h4 would hang. So we take care of that by moving the knight to f3. And now white has good squares. On the other hand, black's weakness is the light squares. Black's bishop on c7, if black cannot free it by getting the e4 move in, then this is going to be a real weakness. Now, the amazing fact actually is that this position actually collapses for black. Let's see if, so the engine doesn't say that there's any hint of why black should collapse in this position, okay? The engine, though, wants black to play a move that normally we think of as very weird. Rook f8, overprotecting f7, taking something off the e file. So maybe when the engine's recommending a weird move, it's actually an indication that there's latent danger in the position. So black plays knight takes f6.
But Ken, on the previous move, when you suggested rook f8, I think rook f8 was defending from all kind of tricks. Bishop takes d4, and then there is a weakness on.
Yes. So it's getting the rook off the e file.
That's right.
Thank
yeah,
you. Yes,
that's what's a problem.
That is definitely the problem. You're right, and that's something that black addressed a different way by retreating the knight off d5.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So now e8 is guarded. And the move knight on f6 is potentially aggressive. Okay, all right. So that's the point of rook f8. That makes sense. All right. So this is now. So the mystery here is why does black collapse? So this actually, now I should have covered up the moves. Okay. So this is a real mystery position. What is the latent weakness in black's position? Okay.
You know what? F5 square. You cannot play G5 because knight F5, and then what? So this is a permanent problem of black's position. You cannot.
That is true. Yep. But there's another funny problem on black's position, which is what makes this a great illustrative game, and it's not a problem you might ever perceive here. Name black's most vulnerable piece. So I should actually say that there was another point to knight f6 that I didn't realize was an issue so readily.
G4.
So, yes, black's queen is black's queen does not have air in this position. Okay, so that is another reason for the knight move. And in fact, I'm going to go back and take a look at this. Actually, so let me just take a look at this about, okay, so g4 is not a problem because black does have h6. So the real problem is that when black played h6 to stop a white piece from coming to g5, black actually created a mausoleum for his own queen. And that is the rationale behind white's very surprising occupation of the center with the rook. Okay. So black captures, but now there's actually no defense to g4. You can't make air by moving the f pawn because it's pinned.
Yeah.
So now the chess program realizes that white is completely winning. Okay, and white was completely winning already from the rook e4 move. Okay, so it turns out that h6 was an innocent-looking, terrible blunder for black. Okay, so anyway, so now black played g5 in desperation, g4, give up the queen, and then give up the game.
That's messy.
Okay, so that but definitely you have to keep watch and sight over the whole board.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have one more game to show. We have time.
Okay, let's do quickly. Yes.
Okay. Yep. So this is the game now by the winner, Abdusadarov, beating Maksudlu in a definitely up and down game. Okay, so I'll keep the engine off for it so we can appreciate this. it's okay. So this is a game that that initially white is going to achieve all the strategic and tactical aims. It's a fighting Sicilian. Frankly, I must admit, I don't really know what is going on in these positions. So I'm just going to play through the moves until we get to the really interesting part. Okay, so both sides have terrible weaknesses on f4 and f5, but white has more influence in the center, and assuming that white is able to stop black's usual queenside counterplay, the influence in the center should be the main factor in the position. Okay. So, okay. Okay, so now, all right, so at this point, it's, nice strategic game. We'll just see what the engine says. Engine says actually dead equal. Okay, well, we're going to make the game not be dead equal. Okay, so, well, again, notice at this point here, I think white is getting a serious initiative on black's queen side. Okay, but black is able also to get some counterplays. So it turns out actually that the queen c6 move was risky, and black is now able to infiltrate on the king side, and white's queen isn't actually able to do anything. So, okay. So now here's the interesting critical juncture of the game. White decides to go for a risky queen sacrifice, but white is already in some trouble in this position.
Yeah, it's almost forced to
fight. It's almost forced. So now the question is, can black really stop? Does black have white's c pawn sufficiently under a lock and key? And can black infiltrate this position, or can white set up, maybe not strictly speaking, a fortress, but something where white can permanently hold black at bay? Okay, so it turns out that black plays this very well for some time in the game, but now here is black's crucial misjudgment. Okay, so black judges that I'm able to win the exchange, and whether black thought of it as a defensive resource or not, it turns out to be a little bit misconstrued. Instead, actually, black is winning by playing the queen into the position, and the knight is able to guard c7, and white has trouble with black's queen oozing into the position. So knight takes d4, unfortunately, allows white to get the white's dog loose, and although it looks like black's queen and knight ought to be able to communicate on an attack, in fact, this is misjudged. Okay, I mean, it really does look like, prying open the white queen side, that this is a strong attack. But in fact, if we let the all-knowing engine, okay, the all-knowing engine says that, no, it does not say that that black is doing well. That black should get no more than a draw from it, from winning the exchange. But now here is the crucial miscalculation. Okay, so now at this point, black is clearly looking for a perpetual check. There are two checks, queen a5 check and queen c1 check. Queen c1 check draws, as even this ancient engine is able to verify, although it looks like it might allow white's king to come up the board. Queen a5 check blocks the king from coming up the board, but already the engine not showing 0.00. Let's see, queen a6. Let's see. Now, supposedly, now analysis I've seen on ChessBase said that white was winning already here. So this is interesting. This engine is not seeing it yet. Okay, but king b4. Okay, still doesn't see that this is winning. Queen b7 check, bishop b5. Okay, so this position now is winning for white. Okay, so this is a case of my engine not seeing it. Um, so it just the engine, this engine's not looking far enough ahead to see how white is going to be able to reorganize the pieces. But well, now it's clear. So my engine must think that black's king g7 was just simply a blunder, but that's actually not true. Now already after king c4, it's seeing that black cannot defend. And so if we back up the hash on the sheet, okay. So what the engine says is that black should have busted out with f5. Now maybe the engine is right, and maybe the analysis I saw on ChessBase is not right here, because this looks suicidal, giving white another passed pawn. But I guess there's a tactical reason why the king c4 maneuver doesn't work. How can black defend this? Queen c8. Wow. Okay. All right. So needs more going to the drawing board here. Wow. f5, a resource that that analysts didn't see. Okay. So more needs to be written about this position, but as it stands, this nice finishing move
Nice.
will win back the queen with knight f6, and that was the winning game. So there we go. This was the decisive game of the tournament. With this game, Norbek Avdisadarov clinched first place.
Yeah, a brilliant game when with two light pieces he beat the queen, and wow, quite amazing. Yeah, very very entertaining games. I really enjoyed all of them.
Right.
I think by next week we will have even more interesting games, because there are so many tournaments coming up. The Airfloat in Moscow, and Chinese tournament in China.
Yeah.
When Daniil Dubov is playing there.
Yeah. I want to mention one more thing, because I was going to feature one game by the winner of the futures, but I just want to say one thing about him. Okay, so continuing task for me has been to judge the growth rates of young players, and sometimes misunderstandings of these growth rates leads to a fair bit of consternation. So this is the winner from India of the futures tournament. Again, clearly ahead of the field, and his rating on the wall chart is 1786, but he is not a 1786 player. My scripts don't estimate him automatically, because with FIDE he only goes back to December 2021, and it looks like he has a very gentle growth curve. But this also is an illusion. So my scripts, based on his 2021 rating of 1600, actually place him almost 2200 for a player this young. Okay, as far as typical. I mean, when I was that age, I gained 700 rating points in 2 years. The reason why he hasn't gained 700 rating points, why he's even lost rating points in some of these tournaments, is that they're youth tournaments against fellow players from India who are similarly underrated. Okay, so when he lost rating points, 104 rating points, okay, so this was the Chennai Open Grandmaster and tournaments, again, playing against people from his country. Moment he comes to Europe, Sproing, he gains 300 rating points in one tournament. So in one period, okay, Radniki Cheveningen in Central Europe. Okay, so this is not a 1786 player. This is a player who's approaching 2200 rating, and his results show that. And formulas that I wrote 3.5 years ago and last tweaked in October 2022. So the last time I tweaked these formulas is before he joined. Oh no, I'm sorry, October 2022. So yet it's more accurately projecting his rating. So when the tournament began, all you saw was 1786. Okay, now in March we see 2104, and that's a much more likely picture of him. So it's not a surprise that here is another up and coming young talent from India, not yet 12. Okay, and the clear winner of the Futures tournament.
Oh my God, it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Ken,
Yes.
thank you very much
Okay.
to inform us, and look forward to our next week's program. There will be, I'm pretty sure, many, many more interesting games to look
Right.
at.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much.
See you
Okay.
next week.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Bye bye.